The Premier League has finished, and it's that time of the year where I get to review my predictions from the start of the season. I'll be honest, I can't really remember what I predicted, so I'm going to watch the video and I'm going to react to what I predicted and see how I did. Let's get started then with Arsenal. But overall, I think Arsenal, they're not going to be top four challengers. I'm going to put them in the Europa candidates section. Okay, so a couple of things about Arsenal. First of all, they did improve their defence over last season. They conceded 39 goals in the end, which is about one per game, so not as much of an improvement as they would have liked. And actually, they were never Europa contenders at all, so I kind of got that one wrong, really. Okay, let's move on to Aston Villa. Next season, I expect them to kick on. If they can get a 10 to 15 goal striker alongside Grealish and the other players in that team, I think they'll be all right. And I'm expecting Villa to not just escape relegation next season. I can see them being a sort of mid-table team. Yeah, mid-table team. They finished 11th. I mean, how much more mid-table can you get than that? So I think Villa will be really happy with how they did this season. I suspect they might have fancied themselves as the season went on to finish in the top half, but actually, when all is said and done, finishing 11th with 55 points is pretty good for Villa, and again, they'll be looking to build on that next season. Right, let's see what I said about Brighton. They only won 9 games last season, and they did draw a lot of games, and ultimately it was those extra draws compared to teams like Bournemouth, who also only had 9 wins, that saw them get out of the relegation zone. Now, that's very well done, but can they turn those draws into wins, or will some of those draws become losses? I'm going to go for the latter. I think Brighton actually are going to end up in the bottom 3, and I can see Brighton being relegated next season. Now, I took a lot of stick from Brighton fans for that prediction, and a lot of them were saying, look, we're going to kick on, we're going to be mid-table or higher, we're going to do really well, look at the players we've got, and blah. I mean, in the end, they were terrible, weren't they, really? They couldn't finish, they couldn't score. And although they didn't get relegated in the end, I feel like I was totally justified in my prediction. They actually finished 16th with 41 points, which even about 4 or 5 weeks ago didn't look like they would be anywhere near that. So they did actually pick up some results towards the end of the season, which really helped them. And they were safe comfortably in the end. So, I mean, I got this one wrong, but not as wrong as Brighton fans thought I was going to. Okay, moving on to Burnley. Now, Burnley, obviously, Sean Dyche, we know what to expect from Burnley. They've been doing it for years now. Solid, unremarkable, but effective. If they improve their home record, winning 3 or 4 more games at home, they'll be a solid mid-table team. Well, that was wrong. They weren't a solid mid-table team. They were 17th in the end, although albeit 11 points clear of relegation, they were comfortable in the end. In terms, all the teams that survived ended up being comfortable. Disappointing, really, for Burnley. Although what should be pointed out here is that basically Burnley's transfer budget was pretty much non-existent. I think they only spent £1 million. So actually, to survive as comfortably as they did should be seen as a big success. But yeah, my prediction was wrong on that one. Right, Chelsea. Already signed Timo Werner, who I think is going to be a fantastic signing. Now, Chelsea's Achilles heel last season was their defence, and last season, away from home, they conceded 38 goals, which is the same as Norwich, and I really can see them being a Champions League qualifier again, no doubt about that, and if they get the defence solid enough, I could see them pushing, the top 2, maybe not, I don't think they're going to win the title, but they could be certainly challenging for a part of the season. So overall, pretty good prediction on Chelsea, really. They did tighten up their defence. They conceded fewer goals all season than they did just away from home last season. So that was obviously a massive improvement. They actually didn't score more goals. Timo Werner didn't become the outstanding striker that I thought he might do this season. He struggled at times. But yeah, Chelsea, they finished 4th in the end. They should have finished 3rd. They lost to Villa on the last day, but they're in the Champions League final as well, which is good for them. They were never a contender at any point, really, for the title. So I got that wrong. But yeah, they did finish in the top 4. So yeah, got that right. Let's have a look at Crystal Palace. I really worry about Crystal Palace. I think their trajectory is downwards under Roy Hodgson. I don't know what's happened at Palace, but it's just all gone a bit stale for Roy Hodgson. And what I think will happen is, I actually think Hodgson might be one of the first managers to go next season. They'll avoid relegation, they'll avoid the drop, but I think it's going to be a tough season for Palace. Okay, so they finished 14th, which was the same as they finished last season. Roy Hodgson wasn't sacked early in the season. He has retired at the end of the season. I think they were never really in danger of being relegated either. So I think I got my prediction wrong. They didn't avoid the drop. They were comfortable all season. They were always like 1 or 2 steps ahead of the relegation fight. They were never really in that cluster of teams who looked like they could go down. They always seem to just have enough to be just outside that. So I think I got that wrong. Let's see Everton now. There's nothing really to get too excited about in my view with Everton. I don't know. Last season has to be disappointing for Evertonians. They had a lot of money. They finished mid-table, and I can just see them finishing mid-table again this season. To be honest, I can't see them kicking on and breaking into that Europa battle. So I was absolutely spot on with that one. I mean, they literally finished 10th, so they were completely mid-table. They will be so disappointed really with how their season went. But at Christmas time, it looked like they might even be pushing for top 4. They were excited because they spent a lot of money, but actually in the end, yeah, it was just as I thought. They did finish with 10 more points than they did last season, so they have improved, there's no doubt about that. But for the money they've spent, they haven't really improved enough, and they were, predictably mid-table. Okay, first of the promoted teams, Fulham. Let's see how they got on. And if Mitrovic is still leading the line, this is controversial amongst Newcastle fans, but for me, he's not a Premier League striker. They're going to struggle. I think Fulham could get relegated. Yeah, so Fulham did get relegated. And apart from a brief spell in February when they looked like they might get out of it, they put a bit of form together. They've been pretty bad all season. They only won 2 home games. Mitrovic had no impact, as I predicted. He's not a Premier League striker. He never has been. I know that firsthand as a Newcastle supporter. And he wasn't even playing towards the end of the season. So, yeah, it was quite predictable, really, that Fulham got relegated. So now, one of the other new teams, Leeds United, let's see how I predicted them. I am actually really excited to see what Bielsa does with Leeds in the Premier League. Their high press game is going to be so interesting in the Premier League. They're going to have very, very fit players in the Premier League with the pace of the league. Can Bielsa do it in the Premier League? I think he can. I think out of all the teams that have come up, Leeds will fare the best, and I can see them finishing in mid-table mediocrity. Again, I'm really happy with that prediction. They finished 9th. They will be so. In fact, I know some Leeds fans, they are absolutely chuffed with how the season went, and quite rightly so. They actually finished the season very, very strongly. They were one of the form teams at the end of the season. And yeah, their players played the high press. They were very fit, and they managed to do it. And yeah, it paid off for Leeds massively. They were solidly mid-table. And next season, with Bielsa there again, it's going to be really interesting to see if they can take that next step and qualify for Europe. Right, Leicester City. Leicester really blew their best chance at a top 4 finish since they won the league a few years ago, and I don't think they're going to be able to get back into that top 4 next season. But I do think they will be there or thereabouts pushing for the Europa places. Again, really happy with that prediction, to be honest, and I'm a bit gutted for Leicester actually. Obviously, on the last day of the season, they just missed out on that 4th spot. If they'd have beaten Tottenham, they would have been in the top 4. They kind of did what they did last season. They got themselves in a great position and kind of blew it a bit. So they'll be gutted to have done that 2 seasons in a row. However, they've won the FA Cup, and as a neutral fan of, I'm a Newcastle fan, but I'm actually really pleased with how Leicester are doing. It's nice to see a team so well run and doing really well. So congratulations to Leicester for a great season. I'm sorry you missed out on the Champions League, but it meant that my prediction was right. Okay, Liverpool, the reigning champions. I do think they are the team to beat. There's no doubt about it. They're going to be Champions League qualifiers. I suspect they might even win the league again. So yeah, that Champions League for me. Okay, so technically my prediction was correct. They finished in the Champions League places, and they finished 3rd. But really, it wasn't a good prediction. Liverpool did finish 3rd. They were only 3rd on the last day of the season. The rest of the season, a lot of the season, they weren't even in the top 4. And they were never a title contender. In fact, their start to the season was, I think, the worst title defence in Premier League history, possibly even in football top division history in England. So I don't really take much pleasure in being right that I put them in the Champions League spots. I think that was kind of maybe a given, really. I did think they would actually win the league again. So for them to be so far off that, I can't really take much credit for that particular prediction because it wasn't particularly close to being a good one. Let's move on to Manchester City, though. So Pep Guardiola's already splashing the cash. You can see where Pep is building his team to tighten them up, to make them more defensively stronger. Going forward, you're never going to have an issue with Man City. They're going to score enough goals. Can they tighten up enough? Can they challenge Liverpool? I think we're on for a really good title race again next season. Obviously, Man City are going to be in the top 2. Champions League qualifiers, no doubt about that. Okay, again, yes, obviously Champions League qualifiers, and yeah, Man City did improve defensively, all that kind of stuff. I was right with a lot of that stuff, but they were so clearly ahead of everyone else. It's kind of embarrassing, really. The only thing I would say is, until Christmas, it wasn't that clear that Man City were going to become who they became by the end of the season. In 2021, they had just been pretty much unstoppable. They went on a massive run and almost came from nowhere to just dominate the league. And actually, the margin by which they won the league, considering where they came from at Christmas time, is particularly impressive. So, again, I was right with my prediction, putting them in the top 4. But I don't really think I get many prizes for predicting that Man City are going to finish in the top 4 these days. Let's see their rivals, Manchester United. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who for me, I still can't rate the guy. I think he got a bit lucky last season. I think they're going to miss out on the Champions League next season though, and I think they'll be a Europa League candidate again. Okay, I got that so wrong, and I kind of owe Solskjaer a bit of an apology, to be honest, because Manchester United have had a fantastic season. I know some of their supporters are a bit disappointed that they haven't been pushing Manchester City more and that they feel like they should be challenging for the title. For me, for them to be so clear in second place is a massive season for them. That's a really good, strong, solid season for Manchester United, in my opinion, at the moment. Whether they can kick on next season, I don't know. I still don't trust that Solskjaer as that guy to take them to the next step. But I hold my hands up this season, and to say that they wouldn't qualify for the Champions League and then for them to actually qualify really comfortably in second, a very wrong prediction. My team next, Newcastle United. Let's take a look. I'm really pessimistic, so I've tried to be a bit more objective about my views and looking at the squad and the situation and all that stuff. It's going to be a really hard season, there's no doubt about that. If we can bring in either someone like Chris Wood or Callum Wilson as a striker who can score 10 to 15 goals, I'll be happy with that. I don't think we're going to do that well. We won't finish 13th again. I think Steve Bruce was lucky last season in a lot of games. We're going to be in a relegation battle, but I do think my early prediction is that Newcastle will avoid the drop. Okay, so this is just a really interesting prediction. So a lot of what I said was absolutely spot on. We were in a relegation fight for a lot of the season, and it wasn't a great season. Like, we weren't a good team to watch. There was a lot of frustration, but in the end we somehow ended up finishing 12th. Now, I'll just caveat that with the fact that on the final day of the season, we could have finished as low as 17th, and we ended up finishing 12th, which was actually the highest we could have possibly have finished on the last day of the season. So we did finish above where we finished last season, which I predicted we wouldn't do. But I think my prediction of us being in a relegation fight was accurate. So it's a bit of a weird one. In a sense, I put them in the wrong category, but really, in the context of the season, I feel like my prediction was actually pretty spot on. I hope you agree with me. Okay, let's see Sheffield United. I think that they will struggle. A bit of second season syndrome in a sense. I don't think they'll get relegated, but I can honestly see them in a relegation battle next season, unless in the next few weeks they sign some players that convince me otherwise. Ooh, I was so close with this one. Lots of people questioned me when I put them even in that category for avoiding the drop. As it turned out, they were relegated first. They were bottom of the league, and they were worse than even I predicted they would be. I knew they'd drop off. Like I said, the evidence after Project Restart was always that they were going to drop off, and that continued into the season. But they dropped off so much; it's unbelievable. I mean, they finished bottom and comfortably bottom too. So I feel like I can take a little bit of credit for that because I predicted that they would be in a relegation fight. But yeah, they were even worse than I predicted. Right, Southampton now. He has done a really good job at Southampton. I mean, they finished on 52 points, 11th place. Saints fans must have been well chuffed with that, I have to say. And I expect to see more of the same from them next season. I think solid mid-table team. Yeah, not really a solid mid-table finish for Southampton this season. They finished 15th in the end, which is disappointing for them. They actually got 9 points fewer than they did last season. And I wonder whether there'll be a change of manager at Southampton next season, actually, because I think their trajectory is not going in the right way. And they have had a very frustrating season. And I think really, again, they were a bit like Palace in the fact that I guess they weren't really in a relegation fight all season. But they were kind of there or thereabouts, just always slightly ahead of it, and which was fine for them, obviously. But just very disappointed, I think, for Southampton. And to finish 15th is not great. I don't think they'll be happy with that. Right, let's move on to Tottenham Hotspur. They've got Harry Kane, so if they can keep him fit, they're going to be scoring enough goals. I can see them conceding fewer goals next season. And I actually do believe that Tottenham will be in the top 4. Yeah, Tottenham weren't in the top four, and to be honest, it's a bit of a mess at Tottenham at the moment. They ended up finishing 7th, so I think they get into the Europa Conference, which is the new third tier competition, where they're going to be so gutted with that when they were aiming for the Champions League. I kind of got a bit carried away with the wave that Spurs appeared to be riding, but actually, I think there's some really deep-rooted problems at Tottenham, and they came out later in the season. Obviously, Mourinho's now left. It's a bit of a mess, just like my prediction, to be honest. They were nowhere near the Champions League spots. Right, West Bromwich Albion, the other newcomer.
I just think they're going to be hamstrung by the quality in their squad, and actually I can see West Brom going straight back down and relegated.
Yeah, spot on really. They were always in the relegation zone all season pretty much, and they were not great, and they got relegated. So, yeah, I'm happy with that prediction because it was spot on. West Ham now.
They need a striker who scores more than that. Can they get one? Can Antonio step up and do better? Time will tell on that. However, I think they'll be fine, and I do actually think that they're not going to pull up any trees next season, but I think there will be mid-table mediocrity all the way.
Yeah, so, I mean, along with Leeds, I'd say West Ham have probably excelled more than most people would think. In fact, you could probably argue that West Ham have excelled even more than even Leeds would have hoped for. They finished 6th in the end. They've got themselves into Europe. Well done to West Ham. Fantastic season. I just thought that they would improve slightly and be one of those bottom of the table kind of mid-table team, but kind of in the bottom half. So for them to actually finish 6th, I was so wrong with this prediction. I think this was probably the one that I got the most wrong out of the whole league. So yeah, well done to West Ham. Hold my hands up. Not a good prediction. And our last team is Wolves.
Their manager, Nuno Santo, absolutely brilliant. He's invested well in the team. He's got a plan. They're progressing season after season. They've got one of the best strikers in the league in Jimenez, who scored 17 goals last season, but also chipped in with 6 assists too. I mean, that is massive. What a player he is. If they can keep him fit, they'll be fine. I don't think they're going to have enough for the top 4 still yet. That might come in the next couple of years or so. However, they will absolutely be fighting for that 5th place or 6th place for those Europa League positions. I'm absolutely sure of that.
I'm absolutely sure of that, I said. Yeah, very, very wrong. It kind of went wrong for Wolves big time, didn't it, this season? I think the injury to Jimenez was obviously massive. Hope that guy gets well soon because he's such a great player to watch in the Premier League. Yeah, I mean, they ended up finishing 13th. Their manager has left, and it just wasn't a good season for Wolves. They didn't kick on like I expected them to, and in the end, they finished 13th with 45 points. So a very disappointing campaign for them. And I hold my hands up. That was probably the prediction that I got most wrong in terms of a team that I projected to do really well. But they fell, if that makes sense. So overall, I think my predictions were not too bad. I think I got quite a lot right, but there was definitely room for improvement next season. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you like the video, hit the like button, please, and I will see you soon for another video.